In the grand halls of Windsor Castle, where centuries-old traditions echo through marble corridors, one young mother was about to challenge everything the royal family thought they knew about Christmas. Princess Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, stood before a towering Christmas tree that had been decorated the same way for over 100 years. The golden baubles, crystal ornaments, and perfectly positioned ribbons represented decades of unchanging royal protocol. But this year would be different. As she watched her three children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, stare wide-eyed at the magnificent but untouchable display, Catherine felt something stir within her. These weren't just royal children, they were kids who deserved the simple joy of hanging their own handmade ornaments, of laughing as they tried to reach the higher branches, of creating memories that would warm their hearts long after the palace lights dimmed. What happened next would send shockwaves through the royal household, delight millions around the world, and prove that sometimes the most powerful revolutions begin with the smallest acts of love. Catherine was about to transform not just how the royal family celebrated Christmas, but how the entire world saw the monarchy itself. This is the story of how one determined princess turned a 150-year-old royal tradition upside down, faced fierce resistance from palace officials, and ultimately created something so beautiful and authentic that it would become the new standard for royal celebrations worldwide. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Kensington Palace as Catherine Wales, the Princess of Wales, sat at her breakfast table watching her three children argue over who got the last piece of toast. Prince George, at 10 years old, was trying to use his future king status to claim it, while 8-year-old Princess Charlotte rolled her eyes and pointed out that being older didn't make him more hungry. 5-year-old Prince Louis simply reached across the table and grabbed it while his siblings were distracted, causing eruptions of laughter and protests. Catherine smiled as she watched this perfectly normal family chaos unfold. These moments reminded her why she had been working so hard behind the scenes to bring more authenticity to royal life. As someone who had grown up in a middle-class family in Berkshire, she understood the importance of real traditions, the kind that brought families together rather than keeping them at arm's length. The idea had been growing in her mind for months. Every year, the royal family's Christmas celebrations followed the same rigid schedule that had been established by Queen Victoria herself. The Christmas trees were professionally decorated by a team of palace staff using ornaments that had been carefully catalogued and stored for decades. The children were allowed to look, but not touch. They could admire the perfectly arranged presents under the tree, but they couldn't help wrap them. Everything was beautiful, everything was proper, and everything felt just a little bit cold. Catherine had tried to bring this up with William during their private conversations, but he had always been hesitant. The traditions existed for a reason, he would say. The royal family was supposed to represent stability and continuity. People expected certain things from them, especially during the holidays. Change was always risky when you were in the public eye. But watching Louis lick jam off his fingers while Charlotte tried to teach George how to fold his napkin properly, Catherine felt more determined than ever. These children deserved to experience the magic of Christmas in a way that would create lasting memories, not just photo opportunities. The catalyst came during a visit to a local primary school in London. Catherine had been invited to watch the children perform their Christmas play, and, afterward, she had toured their classrooms to see how they were preparing for the holidays. In one classroom, 6-year-olds were carefully crafting ornaments out of paper, glitter, and whatever craft supplies they could find. The ornaments were crooked, covered in too much glue, and absolutely perfect. Little Emma, a shy girl with curly red hair, had proudly shown Catherine the angel she had made for her family's tree. The angel's wings were different sizes, her halo was sliding off to one side, and there were fingerprints in the gold paint. But Emma's face glowed with pride as she explained how she had worked on it for 3 whole days, how she had chosen the colors herself, and how her mom was going to put it right at the front of their tree where everyone could see it. That night, Catherine couldn't stop thinking about Emma's angel. She thought about her own children, who had never experienced the simple joy of creating something imperfect and wonderful for their family's Christmas celebration. They had participated in charity events where they made crafts for other families, but their own holiday traditions remained firmly in the hands of palace staff. Catherine began researching the history of royal Christmas traditions, staying up late in her private study, surrounded by books and historical documents. She discovered that the current formal approach to Christmas decorating had actually been a relatively recent development in royal history. In earlier centuries, royal families had been much more involved in their own celebrations. Children had traditionally helped with preparations, and personal touches had been not only allowed but encouraged. The turning point came when she found a diary entry from Queen Victoria's daughter, Princess Victoria, describing how she and her siblings had spent an entire December afternoon making paper chains and cloth ornaments for their family's Christmas tree. The entry was filled with joy and laughter, describing how the younger children had gotten more paste on themselves than on their projects, and how their father, Prince Albert, had helped them hang their creations alongside the more formal decorations. Catherine realized that somewhere along the way, the royal family had lost touch with the heart of Christmas traditions. The focus had shifted from creating memories to creating images. From family bonding to public presentation. From authentic joy to careful management. She decided it was time for a change, but she knew she would need to be strategic about it. The palace staff were protective of established protocols, and any deviation from tradition would need to be carefully managed to avoid negative publicity. But Catherine had spent over a decade as a working royal, and she had learned how to navigate the complex world of palace politics. Her first step was to approach Maria Teresa Turian Barallo, the children's nanny, who had become not just an employee but a trusted confidant. Maria had worked with wealthy families before joining the royal household, and she understood both the importance of tradition and the value of authentic family experiences. During one of their regular planning meetings, Catherine broached the subject carefully. She talked about wanting to create more meaningful Christmas memories for the children, about the importance of hands-on family traditions, and about how some of the most treasured royal moments in history had been the unscripted ones. Maria was immediately supportive. She had watched the children during previous Christmas celebrations, had seen how they lit up during the brief moments when they were allowed to participate, and had noticed how they seemed more engaged and happy during the less formal holiday activities. She agreed that finding ways to involve them more actively in the preparations would be beneficial for their emotional development and family bonding. Encouraged by Maria's support, Catherine decided to take the next step. She scheduled a private meeting with her personal secretary, Hannah Cockburn, to discuss the logistics of implementing some changes to the family's holiday traditions. Hannah had been with Catherine since before her marriage to William, and she understood the princess's desire to balance royal protocol with authentic family experiences. The meeting took place on a rainy Tuesday morning in Catherine's private sitting room. Hannah arrived with her usual leather portfolio and digital tablet, ready to discuss the upcoming royal engagements and public appearances. But Catherine had something different in mind. She explained her vision of creating a more family-centered approach to their Christmas celebrations. She wanted the children to be involved in decorating their private family tree, to help with wrapping presents for their charitable giving, and to participate in creating some of the holiday decorations that would be used in their private family areas of the palace. Hannah listened carefully, taking notes and asking thoughtful questions about how these activities would fit into the family's already busy schedule. She was supportive of the idea but raised important concerns about logistics and protocol. How would they ensure that the children's involvement didn't interfere with the professional decorating teams? How would they manage the timing so that both formal and informal preparations could take place? How would they handle any potential media interest if word of the changes got out? Catherine had been thinking about these challenges, and she came prepared with preliminary answers. The children's activities would take place in private family areas that were not part of the public or official palace spaces. The timing would be coordinated so that professional decorating could still happen on schedule. And, if media attention arose, they would present it as a positive evolution of royal family traditions rather than a rejection of established protocols. Hannah was impressed by Catherine's thorough preparation and agreed to help develop a more detailed plan. She suggested that they start small, with just a few new activities during the upcoming Christmas season, and then evaluate how well they worked before expanding the changes in future years. Over the next few weeks, Catherine and Hannah worked together to create a comprehensive plan for integrating more family participation into the royal Christmas traditions. They identified specific activities that would be both meaningful for the children and manageable within the constraints of royal life. They developed a timeline that would allow for both formal and informal preparations. And they created contingency plans for handling any unexpected challenges or opportunities that might arise. The plan included having the children help decorate a smaller, private family tree in their living quarters, participate in wrapping gifts for their charitable donations, create handmade ornaments and decorations for family areas, and help with simple holiday baking activities in a designated area of the palace kitchens. Catherine felt a growing excitement as the plan took shape. She could imagine George carefully choosing where to hang his handmade star, Charlotte meticulously wrapping presents for children their own ages, and Louis enthusiastically helping to stir cookie dough. These activities would give her children experiences similar to what she had treasured from her own childhood, while still respecting the unique requirements of royal life. But she knew that the real challenge would come when she presented these changes to the broader palace staff and, ultimately, to William himself. The royal household operated on tradition and precedent, and any deviation from established protocols would need to be carefully justified and expertly managed. Catherine spent several evenings preparing for these conversations, researching examples of successful innovation within royal traditions, identifying potential concerns and objections, and developing persuasive arguments for why these changes would benefit both the family and the institution of the monarchy itself. She realized that this was about more than just Christmas decorations or holiday activities. This was about the kind of royal family she wanted her children to grow up in, and the kind of example she wanted them to set for families around the world. It was about showing that traditions could be honored and preserved while still evolving to meet the needs of each new generation. As December approached, Catherine felt ready to take the next step in her quiet revolution. She had done her research, built her support team, and developed her plan. Now it was time to begin implementing changes that she hoped would create new traditions as meaningful and enduring as the ones they were gently reshaping. The stage was set for a Christmas season that would be unlike any the royal family had experienced in generations. The conversation with William took place on a quiet Sunday evening after the children had gone to bed. They were in their private sitting room at Kensington Palace, with Catherine curled up in her favorite armchair and William stretched out on the sofa, both enjoying the rare moment of complete quiet in their busy lives. Catherine had been planning this conversation for weeks, but she started naturally, talking about their recent visit to the children's school and how much George, Charlotte, and Louis had enjoyed the craft activities during their Christmas fair. William smiled as he remembered how excited Louis had been about the reindeer decoration he had made, insisting on carrying it home himself and placing it carefully on his bedside table. Using that memory as her opening, Catherine gently introduced the idea of incorporating more hands-on activities into their own family's Christmas preparations. She talked about the joy on their children's faces when they were allowed to participate in creating something, about the importance of building memories through shared experiences, and about how these activities could strengthen their family bonds while still respecting royal protocols. William's initial reaction was exactly what Catherine had expected. He was supportive of the sentiment but concerned about the practical implications. What would the household staff think? How would they manage the logistics? What if the children's involvement created problems with the carefully orchestrated holiday schedule that the palace depended upon? Catherine had anticipated these concerns and came prepared with answers. She explained the detailed plan she and Hannah had developed, showing how the new activities would complement rather than replace existing traditions. She emphasized that everything would take place in private family areas, that professional standards would still be maintained for public spaces, and that the changes would actually enhance the family's public image by demonstrating their commitment to authentic family values. But her most persuasive argument came when she shared what she had discovered about the historical evolution of royal Christmas traditions. She showed William excerpts from Queen Victoria's family correspondence, descriptions of how previous generations of royal children had been actively involved in holiday preparations, and examples of how personal touches had always been an important part of royal celebrations. She pointed out that their current highly formalized approach was actually a departure from historical royal traditions, not a preservation of them. The most beloved and enduring royal Christmas memories had often been the most personal and authentic ones. William found himself nodding as Catherine spoke. He remembered his own childhood Christmases, the moments that had stood out to him most clearly. They weren't the formal state occasions or the perfectly arranged photo opportunities. They were the times when he had been allowed to help his mother with something, when they had shared quiet moments together, when he had felt like a regular child rather than a future king. By the end of their conversation, William was not just supportive of Catherine's plan, he was enthusiastic about it. He began suggesting additional ways they could involve the children, sharing his own ideas about how to make the holidays more meaningful for their family. They talked late into the evening, developing an expanded vision of how they could create new traditions that honored their heritage while meeting their family's contemporary needs. The next challenge came when Catherine needed to present these changes to the senior household staff. She scheduled a meeting with the private secretary, the master of the household, and the key staff members responsible for managing the family's Christmas celebrations. Catherine approached this meeting with the same careful preparation she brought to any important royal engagement. She prepared a presentation that outlined the proposed changes, explained the reasoning behind them, addressed potential concerns, and demonstrated how the new activities would fit into existing schedules and protocols. The reaction from the household staff was mixed. Some were immediately supportive, particularly those who worked most closely with the children and had seen how much they enjoyed hands-on activities. But others were more resistant, concerned about disrupting established systems and worried about the additional complexity these changes might create. Mrs. Sarah Johnston, who had been responsible for coordinating the palace Christmas decorations for over 15 years, was particularly concerned. She had developed highly efficient systems for managing the holiday preparations, and she worried that adding children's activities into the mix would create chaos and potentially compromise the quality of the final results. Catherine listened carefully to Mrs. Johnston's concerns and acknowledged the validity of her worries. But she also explained that the children's activities would be confined to specific areas and times that wouldn't interfere with the main decorating operations. She suggested a trial period where they could test the new approach and make adjustments as needed. More importantly, Catherine emphasized that these changes weren't about replacing the existing beautiful work that the household staff did. Instead, they were about adding another layer of meaning and personal connection to the family's holiday celebrations. The professional decorations would still be magnificent, but they would be complemented by personal touches that reflected the family's love and involvement. She also pointed out the potential positive publicity that could result from showing the royal family's commitment to hands-on family values. In an era when the monarchy was working to remain relevant and relatable to modern families, demonstrating that royal children participated in the same kinds of activities as other children could be a significant public relations asset. Gradually, Catherine won over the household staff. Her combination of respectful listening, practical solutions, and compelling arguments helped them see that the proposed changes could enhance rather than diminish their work. Mrs. Johnston agreed to collaborate on developing specific protocols for the children's activities, ensuring that they would be both meaningful for the family and manageable for the staff. The breakthrough moment came when Catherine suggested that the household staff could take pride in being pioneers of a new approach to royal family traditions. Instead of simply maintaining existing systems, they would be helping to create innovations that could become new traditions for future generations of the royal family. With the household staff on board, Catherine faced her final major hurdle, convincing the children themselves that these new activities would be fun rather than just additional royal duties. She needn't have worried. When Catherine first mentioned to George, Charlotte, and Louis that they would be helping with Christmas preparations this year, their reactions exceeded her wildest expectations. George immediately wanted to know if he could help hang ornaments on the big tree. Charlotte asked if she could make presents for the palace staff who took care of them. Louis simply clapped his hands and asked if there would be glitter involved. Catherine realized that her children had been longing for exactly this kind of involvement in their family's traditions. They had been watching the elaborate preparations happen around them for years, always as observers rather than participants. The opportunity to finally contribute something of their own to their family's celebrations was genuinely exciting for them. She spent several evenings with the children, explaining what kinds of activities they would be doing and helping them understand how their contributions would be part of the larger Christmas celebrations. She emphasized that their handmade decorations and personal touches would be just as important as the professional decorations, that their family's private celebrations would be enhanced by their involvement. The children began planning their contributions weeks before the activities were scheduled to begin. George decided he wanted to make a special ornament for each family member. Charlotte planned to create decorations that could be given as gifts to their household staff. Louis was most excited about the prospect of helping in the kitchen, though Catherine made a mental note to have plenty of extra ingredients on hand for his help. As the Christmas season approached, Catherine felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She had successfully built support for her vision among family and staff, but she knew that the real test would come when they actually implemented the changes. Would the activities work as smoothly as they had planned? Would the children remain engaged and enthusiastic? Would the household staff find the additional complexity manageable? She also knew that there was potential for public scrutiny if word of the changes leaked out. The British press was always interested in any deviation from established royal protocols, and Catherine wanted to be prepared to present these changes in the most positive light possible. Working with the palace communications team, Catherine developed key messages that emphasized the historical precedent for royal family involvement in Christmas preparations, the importance of family traditions in child development, and the monarchy's commitment to evolving while maintaining its core values. The communication strategy focused on positioning these changes as a return to historical royal practices rather than a departure from tradition. By emphasizing the historical research Catherine had conducted and the precedents she had discovered, they could present the new activities as a restoration of authentic royal family customs rather than a modern innovation. Catherine also prepared for the possibility that the changes might not work exactly as planned. She developed contingency plans for various scenarios, from children losing interest in the activities to logistical complications that might disrupt the schedule. She was determined to be flexible and adaptive, prioritizing the family's experience over rigid adherence to any particular plan. As December arrived and the Christmas season officially began, Catherine felt ready for what she privately thought of as her family's Christmas experiment. She had done everything possible to ensure success, but she also knew that the most important measure of that success would be the joy and connection that her children experienced through their increased involvement in their family's holiday traditions. The stage was set for a Christmas season that would test whether Catherine's vision of more authentic and engaging royal family traditions could become reality. Everything had been planned, all the support had been secured, and all the preparations had been made. Now it was time to find out whether a princess's determination to create better Christmas memories for her children could truly transform centuries of royal tradition. The first Saturday of December dawned crisp and bright, with frost covering the palace gardens like a delicate silver blanket. Catherine woke early, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness that reminded her of Christmas mornings from her own childhood. Today would be the beginning of their new family traditions, starting with the children's involvement in decorating their private family Christmas tree. Catherine had chosen to begin with the tree decorating because it was the most symbolic of all the changes she wanted to make. For generations, royal Christmas trees had been the domain of professional decorators who created flawless displays that photographed beautifully but had no personal connection to the family they represented. Today, that would change. The tree itself was a magnificent Fraser fir that had been selected from the Sandringham estate and transported to London specifically for the family's private quarters. At 8 feet tall, it was substantial enough to feel properly royal but manageable enough for children to help decorate without needing excessive assistance. Mrs. Johnston had worked with Catherine to prepare a careful selection of decorations that would be both beautiful and child-friendly. Alongside some precious family heirloom ornaments that would be handled only by adults, there were sturdy glass balls in jewel tones, wooden decorations that could survive enthusiastic handling, and spaces specifically designated for the handmade ornaments the children would create. The morning began in the palace craft room, a space that had been specially prepared for the children's Christmas activities. Catherine had worked with the household staff to stock it with high-quality art supplies, child-safe tools, and everything the young princes and princess would need to create their contributions to the family's holiday decorations. Prince George approached the project with the serious concentration he brought to most of his endeavors. At 10 years old, he was acutely aware of his future role and often felt the weight of representing the family properly. But, as he worked with colored paper, carefully cutting out star shapes and decorating them with gold paint, Catherine watched him relax into the simple pleasure of creating something with his own hands. Princess Charlotte, ever the perfectionist, had planned her ornaments in advance. She had sketched out designs for small angels that she wanted to create using felt, sequins, and careful embroidery work that her governess had been teaching her. Her attention to detail was remarkable for an 8-year-old, and Catherine could see the pride growing on her daughter's face as each angel took shape under her careful attention. Prince Louis, at 5 years old, brought pure enthusiasm to everything he touched. His ornaments were wonderfully chaotic masterpieces involving generous amounts of glitter, paint that didn't always stay within the intended lines, and a creative approach to color combinations that made Catherine smile. His joy in the process was infectious, and even Mrs. Johnston found herself laughing as Louis proudly announced that his purple and orange reindeer was the most beautiful one ever made. William joined the family for the crafting session, and Catherine watched with deep satisfaction as he settled naturally into helping Louis manage his paintbrush while discussing George's star designs and admiring Charlotte's precise stitching. This was exactly what she had envisioned, genuine family time where royal protocol took a backseat to parent-child connection. The ornament-making session lasted for nearly 3 hours, with breaks for snacks and lots of conversation about Christmas traditions, family memories, and plans for the upcoming holiday season. Catherine found herself treasuring not just the beautiful decorations her children were creating, but the relaxed, genuine interactions they were having as a family. When the ornaments were finished and set aside to dry, the family moved to the sitting room where their tree was waiting. Catherine had asked the household staff to bring in the basic tree and lights, but to leave it otherwise undecorated so the family could have the experience of transforming it together. The decorating process became a wonderfully chaotic and joyful affair. William lifted Louis up to reach higher branches while Catherine helped Charlotte position her angels exactly where she wanted them. George took charge of ensuring that the ornaments were distributed evenly around the tree, stepping back frequently to assess the overall effect. Each child's handmade ornaments were given places of honor on the tree, positioned where they could be easily seen and admired. Catherine made sure to comment specifically on each one, pointing out the special details and celebrating the creativity that had gone into every piece. But perhaps the most meaningful moment came when Charlotte asked if they could hang one of her angels near the top of the tree, in memory of their great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, who had passed away the previous year. The family gathered around as William carefully positioned the little angel, and they shared a moment of quiet remembrance that felt deeply appropriate for the season. As they continued decorating, Catherine noticed that the tree was developing a character unlike any royal Christmas tree she had ever seen. It was still beautiful, but it was also personal, warm, and clearly loved. The professional ornaments provided elegance and tradition, while the children's creations added heart and meaning. The tree decorating was followed by an afternoon of Christmas baking in a section of the palace kitchens that had been specially prepared for the family's use. Catherine had arranged for the royal pastry chef to teach the children some traditional Christmas cookie recipes that they could help prepare for both their own enjoyment and for gifts to palace staff. The kitchen session was, predictably, messier than the ornament making had been. Louis managed to get flour in his hair within the first 5 minutes, and Charlotte discovered that rolling pin techniques required more practice than she had anticipated. George approached cookie cutting with scientific precision, carefully measuring to ensure that each cookie was exactly the same size. Catherine found herself fully engaged in the process, helping small hands manage large mixing spoons, rescuing cookies that were about to burn, and laughing as Louis attempted to taste every ingredient to ensure it met his approval. William documented everything with his phone, capturing candid moments that Catherine knew would become treasured family memories. The cookies that emerged from the royal ovens were perfectly imperfect, some slightly burned around the edges, others decorated with enthusiastic amounts of icing, all of them made with love and genuine family collaboration. Catherine packed them into special boxes that Charlotte had decorated, ready to be given to the household staff as gifts from the children. As the day wound down, Catherine reflected on how smoothly everything had gone. The children had been engaged and enthusiastic throughout all the activities. The household staff had managed the logistics efficiently while still allowing the family to have authentic experiences. And, most importantly, she could see that they were creating exactly the kind of memories she had hoped for. But the real test came that evening when the children were getting ready for bed. Instead of the usual resistance to bedtime that often followed exciting days, all 3 children were chattering happily about the day's activities, already making plans for what they wanted to do next. George asked if they could make more ornaments for other trees in the palace. Charlotte wondered if they could learn to make their own Christmas cards to send to friends and family. Louis wanted to know if they could bake cookies every week until Christmas. Catherine realized that her children weren't just enjoying these new activities, they were embracing them as natural parts of their family life. The fear that they might see the activities as additional royal duties had been completely unfounded. Instead, they clearly understood that these were special family times that belonged just to them. The positive reaction from the household staff was equally encouraging. Mrs. Johnston reported that the children's involvement had actually made her own work more enjoyable, as she had been able to share her expertise while watching the family create meaningful traditions. The kitchen staff were charmed by the children's enthusiasm and requested permission to frame some of the photos William had taken during the baking session. Most importantly, Catherine could see a change in her children's relationship with their home environment. Instead of feeling like guests in the formal palace spaces, they were beginning to feel like genuine contributors to the family's domestic life. They took pride in pointing out their ornaments to visitors and spoke with enthusiasm about the activities they had planned for the coming weeks. The success of the first weekend convinced Catherine that her instincts had been correct. Creating opportunities for authentic family involvement in their traditions wasn't just possible within the constraints of royal life, it was actually enhancing their experience of royal life. Word of the family's new Christmas activities began to spread quietly through the palace staff, and the reaction was overwhelmingly positive. Employees who had worked for the royal family for decades commented on how happy and relaxed the children seemed, how engaged they were with their holiday preparations, and how much more connected the family appeared to be. Catherine began planning the next phase of their Christmas activities with even more confidence. She scheduled additional crafting sessions for making Christmas cards and gifts, arranged for the children to help with decorating other family areas of the palace, and planned a special Christmas cooking project where they would prepare treats for the family's charitable holiday visits. She also began documenting the activities more systematically, working with William to create a photo record that could serve as both family memories and potential public relations material if they decided to share any glimpses of their new traditions with the public. The children's enthusiasm continued to grow as December progressed. They began suggesting their own ideas for holiday activities, demonstrating initiative and creativity that delighted both parents. Charlotte proposed making special Christmas placemats for their family dinners. George wanted to learn how to wrap presents properly so he could help with the family's charitable gift-giving. Louis announced that he wanted to make Christmas decorations for the stables so that the horses could enjoy Christmas too. Catherine found herself energized by her children's engagement and began expanding her vision of what their new family traditions could include. She realized that the Christmas activities were just the beginning of a broader transformation in how her family approached their private life within the public institution of the monarchy. As the middle of December approached, Catherine felt confident that her quiet revolution was not only succeeding but exceeding her most optimistic expectations. The children were happier, the family was closer, and they were creating authentic traditions that honored their heritage while meeting their contemporary needs as a modern family. The stage was set for the next phase of their Christmas transformation, and Catherine was ready to embrace whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead. The transformation in the Wales family's Christmas traditions might have remained a private affair if not for an unexpected moment during their annual Christmas card photo session. Catherine had arranged for the family photographs to be taken in their newly decorated private sitting room, wanting to capture the warmth and personality that their handmade decorations had brought to the space. John Stillwell, the trusted royal photographer, was setting up his equipment when 5-year-old Prince Louis spotted the tree with its mix of professional and handmade ornaments. Unable to contain his excitement, he began enthusiastically pointing out each decoration he and his siblings had created, explaining in delightful detail how he had made his sparkly reindeer and how Charlotte's angels were even more beautiful than the ones in church. Stillwell, who had been photographing the royal family for years, was charmed by Louis's genuine enthusiasm and asked if he could capture some candid shots of the children with their tree. What resulted were some of the most natural and joyful royal family photographs ever taken, images that showed the children genuinely engaged with their surroundings, pointing proudly to their contributions, and radiating authentic happiness. When Catherine and William reviewed the photographs later that week, they realized they had captured something special. The images told a story of family connection and authentic tradition that was unlike anything they had shared publicly before. The children's joy was evident in every frame, and the combination of professional elegance and personal touches created a visual narrative that perfectly represented Catherine's vision for their family's evolution. After extensive discussion with their communications team, Catherine and William decided to share one of these photographs as their official Christmas card, along with a carefully crafted message about the importance of family traditions and making memories together. The response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Royal watchers and parenting experts praised the Wales family for demonstrating hands-on family values and showing that even royal children could benefit from participating in creating their own holiday traditions. Social media exploded with positive comments from families around the world who connected with the authenticity of the image and the message it conveyed. Parenting blogger Sarah Morrison wrote, "Finally, a royal family photo that looks like it was taken in a real family's home." Seeing Prince Louis point proudly to his handmade ornament reminds every parent of those precious moments when our children create something special with their own hands. The Wales family is showing us that the most meaningful traditions are often the simplest ones. The positive response encouraged Catherine to share more glimpses of their family's Christmas preparations. Working with the palace communications team, she arranged for a carefully curated social media campaign that showed brief glimpses of the children's crafting activities, their Christmas baking adventures, and their obvious enjoyment of their expanded role in the family's holiday preparations. Each post was met with enthusiastic responses from families who appreciated seeing royal children engaged in the same kinds of activities their own children enjoyed. Parents tagged friends with comments like, "This is what Christmas should look like," and "I love that they're making their own traditions." The impact extended far beyond social media. Craft stores across the United Kingdom reported a surge in sales of Christmas ornament making supplies as families were inspired to create their own handmade decorations. Children's Christmas craft workshops began selling out as parents sought to recreate the kind of authentic family experiences they had seen from the Wales family. Elementary schools contacted the palace asking for guidance on Christmas tradition projects that could help children connect with their heritage while creating new memories. The response was so overwhelming that Catherine worked with her team to develop a simple guide to family Christmas crafting that could be shared with schools and community organizations. But perhaps the most meaningful response came from other royal families around the world. Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden reached out personally to share how inspired she was by Catherine's approach and to ask for advice on implementing similar traditions with her own children. Other royal households quietly began exploring ways to incorporate more authentic family involvement in their own holiday celebrations. The success of the public response convinced Catherine that she had tapped into something much larger than she had initially realized. Families everywhere were hungry for more authentic ways to celebrate together, and the royal family's platform gave her an opportunity to model those values on an international stage. This realization led Catherine to expand her vision beyond just her own family's traditions. She began working with children's charities to develop Christmas programs that would help disadvantaged families create their own meaningful holiday traditions, regardless of their financial resources. The Christmas Magic for Everyone initiative launched in mid-December with Catherine as its patron. The program provided craft supplies, simple recipes, and activity guides to family support centers, homeless shelters, and community organizations serving low-income families. The goal was to ensure that every child could experience the joy of creating handmade Christmas decorations and participating in meaningful family traditions. Catherine made personal visits to several participating organizations, bringing George, Charlotte, and Louis with her to share craft-making sessions with other children. These visits became some of the most meaningful royal engagements of the year, as the Wales children naturally connected with their peers over the shared experience of creating Christmas decorations. During one particularly moving visit to a family shelter in East London, Catherine watched as Charlotte taught a younger girl how to make paper angels, patiently helping her cut the shapes and showing her how to add glitter details. George and Louis worked with a group of boys to create ornaments shaped like their favorite animals, and the entire room buzzed with the kind of genuine joy that Catherine had hoped to cultivate in her own home. The shelter director, Maria Santos, told Catherine afterward, "You've given these children something precious, the sense that they can create beauty and magic with their own hands, regardless of their circumstances." Some of these families have never had the resources for elaborate Christmas celebrations, but now they have traditions they can maintain anywhere, anytime. The initiative's success attracted support from major corporations and celebrities who wanted to contribute to expanding the program. Craft supply companies donated materials, television personalities volunteered their time for promotional videos, and children's book authors created special stories about family Christmas traditions that could be distributed through the program. But Catherine was most proud of the ripple effect the initiative created in individual families. The palace began receiving letters from parents describing how their children had become more engaged in family activities, how creating traditions together had strengthened their relationships, and how the simple act of making decorations had created memories they would treasure forever. One letter from a single mother in Manchester particularly touched Catherine's heart. "My daughter Emma and I made paper angels together using the supplies from your program. She was so proud of hers that she insisted we hang it in our front window so everyone could see it. When our elderly neighbor saw it, she came over to tell Emma about the angels she used to make with her own children. That conversation led to a beautiful friendship that has enriched both our lives. Thank you for showing us that the most meaningful gifts are the ones we create together." The program's impact extended internationally as well. Royal families in other countries began implementing similar initiatives, and the concept of royal families supporting family traditions became a new model for monarchy in the modern era. Catherine found herself consulting with other royal households about how to balance authentic family experiences with public responsibilities. The media coverage of the Wales family's Christmas transformation and the subsequent charitable initiative created a new narrative about the monarchy's relevance to contemporary life. Rather than being seen as distant figures maintaining outdated traditions, the royal family was increasingly viewed as a model for modern family values and meaningful tradition-making. Royal historian Dr. Amanda Foreman commented, "Princess Catherine has achieved something remarkable. She's shown how the monarchy can evolve to meet contemporary needs while still honoring its historical role. By focusing on authentic family experiences and using that platform to support similar experiences for other families, she's created a new template for royal relevance." The success also had practical benefits for the Wales family's public image. Polling showed increased approval ratings for both William and Catherine, with particular strength among young families who connected with their approach to parenting and tradition-making. The authentic family moments they had shared resonated across demographic lines and helped modernize perceptions of the monarchy. As Christmas Eve approached, Catherine reflected on how far their family's transformation had come. What had begun as a simple desire to create better Christmas memories for her children had evolved into a movement that was touching families around the world and reshaping expectations of what royal leadership could look like in the 21st century. The children remained blissfully unaware of the broader impact their Christmas activities had created. They were simply enjoying the most engaging and personally meaningful holiday season they had ever experienced. But Catherine could see that the confidence and joy they had gained from being active participants in their family's traditions was changing them in lasting ways. They spoke with more pride about their family's customs, showed increased interest in the historical traditions they were adapting, and demonstrated a natural understanding of how their personal experiences could connect them with other children. Most importantly, they were developing a sense of themselves as both inheritors of tradition and creators of new meaningful experiences. As the Wales family prepared for Christmas Day itself, Catherine knew that they had created something that would extend far beyond one holiday season. They had established new traditions that would grow and evolve with their family, inspired countless other families to create their own authentic celebrations, and demonstrated that even the most established institutions could change and grow while still honoring their essential purposes. The stage was set for a Christmas Day that would be both deeply traditional and refreshingly innovative, celebrating the best of royal heritage while embracing the authentic family connections that Catherine had worked so hard to create. Christmas Day dawned with the kind of perfect winter light that seemed to promise magic was in the air. Catherine woke early, as she always did on Christmas morning, but this year felt different. Instead of the usual mixture of excitement and apprehension about managing a day packed with royal protocols and public appearances, she felt a deep sense of anticipation for the authentic family celebrations they had created. The morning began in their private quarters, with the children discovering the presents that had been arranged under their handmade decorated tree. But even this traditional moment had been enhanced by their new approach to Christmas. Many of the gifts had been wrapped by the children themselves during their December activities, and seeing their careful work and creative wrapping choices added an extra layer of meaning to the giving and receiving. Prince Louis squealed with delight when he found a set of advanced art supplies that would allow him to create even more elaborate decorations for next year's celebrations. Princess Charlotte carefully examined each gift before opening it, savoring the anticipation and commenting on the thoughtful wrapping. Prince George discovered a book about the history of Christmas traditions around the world, which he immediately began reading aloud to his younger siblings. But, perhaps the most meaningful gifts were the ones the children had created for each other during their craft sessions. Charlotte had made each of her brothers a personalized ornament with their names carefully embroidered in gold thread. George had created wooden bookmarks for Charlotte and Louis, carved with their initials and decorated with their favorite colors. Louis had painted individual pictures for each family member, proudly presenting them as masterpieces for the royal gallery. William and Catherine exchanged their own gifts privately, but the most precious present they gave each other was the quiet acknowledgement of what they had accomplished together. They had successfully transformed their family's Christmas traditions in a way that honored the past while creating new meaning for their children's future. The family's private Christmas breakfast was a relaxed affair that stretched through the morning, with conversation flowing naturally between excitement about new presents, memories of their Christmas preparations, and plans for future holiday activities. Catherine watched her children with deep satisfaction, seeing how comfortable and confident they had become in their own home environment. The formal elements of Royal Christmas Day remained unchanged, but they felt different within the context of the authentic family experiences that had preceded them. When the family attended Christmas service at St. George's Chapel, the children pointed out decorations to other royal family members, explaining with pride how they had learned to make similar ones at home. During the traditional Christmas lunch, George, Charlotte, and Louis naturally shared stories about their Christmas preparations with their extended royal family. Queen Camilla was particularly charmed by Louis's detailed explanation of his cookie-making techniques, while King Charles III listened with genuine interest as Charlotte described the historical research that had inspired some of their new traditions. The other royal family members were clearly impressed by how engaged and articulate the Wales children were when talking about their family's Christmas activities. There was none of the usual fidgeting or restlessness that sometimes characterized formal family gatherings. Instead, the children were genuinely excited to share their experiences and obviously proud of their contributions to the family's celebrations. After lunch, Catherine made time for reflection on what this Christmas had represented. She realized that her initial goal of creating better memories for her children had been achieved in ways that exceeded her expectations. But, more than that, she had discovered something important about the role authentic family experiences could play in preparing her children for their future royal responsibilities. By participating actively in creating their family's traditions, George, Charlotte, and Louis had developed a deeper understanding of what it meant to be part of something larger than themselves. They had learned that traditions were not fixed historical artifacts to be preserved unchanged, but living practices that could grow and evolve while maintaining their essential meaning. The children had also gained confidence in their ability to contribute meaningfully to their family's life, rather than simply being passive recipients of experiences created by others. Catherine could see that this confidence would serve them well as they grew into their royal roles, giving them a foundation of authentic personal experience to draw upon when engaging with the public and supporting causes they cared about. The success of their Christmas transformation inspired Catherine to begin planning how they could apply similar principles to other family celebrations throughout the year. She envisioned Easter activities where the children could learn about the historical and religious significance of the holiday while creating their own meaningful traditions. She thought about birthday celebrations that would balance royal protocol with personal touches that reflected each child's individual personality and interests. Most importantly, Catherine realized that the approach they had developed for Christmas could become a model for how her family navigated all aspects of their royal life. By finding ways to be authentically engaged participants rather than merely performing predetermined roles, they could create a more sustainable and fulfilling approach to their public service. The impact of their Christmas innovation continued to unfold in the weeks that followed. The Christmas Magic for Everyone initiative had been so successful that charitable organizations were requesting expanded programming for other holidays and family occasions. The concept of supporting authentic family experiences had resonated so strongly with the public that it was becoming a defining characteristic of Catherine's charitable work. Educational institutions began incorporating the Wales family's approach to tradition-making into their curricula, teaching children about how traditions develop and evolve while maintaining their cultural significance. Parenting experts wrote articles about the importance of involving children in creating family experiences rather than simply providing experiences for them. The international response was equally significant. Royal families in several countries implemented their own versions of family-centered tradition programs, and the concept of authentic royal family engagement began influencing how monarchies around the world approached their public roles. Catherine received invitations to speak about family traditions and child development at international conferences, requests that she carefully considered as opportunities to extend the positive impact of their family's evolution. She was particularly interested in collaborating with child development experts and family counselors who were researching the long-term benefits of hands-on family activities. But perhaps the most meaningful validation came from watching her children as the weeks after Christmas passed. They continued to reference their holiday activities in their daily conversations, incorporate their Christmas crafting skills into other projects, and demonstrate increased confidence in family settings. George began suggesting family activities for other occasions, showing that he had internalized the concept of being an active participant in creating family experiences. Charlotte started a family scrapbook to document their special activities, demonstrating her understanding that their new traditions were worth preserving and remembering. Louis simply continued to approach family activities with enthusiastic creativity, but with a new expectation that his contributions would be valued and included. The transformation in the children's relationship with their royal identity was particularly significant. They were developing a sense of their family's public role that was grounded in personal experience rather than abstract duty. When they participated in royal engagements, they brought authentic enthusiasm and genuine interest because they understood how their family's activities could connect with and inspire other families. Catherine also noticed positive changes in her own experience of royal life. The confidence she had gained from successfully implementing meaningful changes in her family's traditions carried over into her public work, making her more willing to suggest innovative approaches to charitable initiatives and royal engagements. William, too, was affected by the success of their Christmas transformation. He became more open to questioning established protocols when they didn't serve their family's needs, more willing to prioritize authentic family experiences over rigid adherence to tradition, and more confident in their ability to balance personal authenticity with royal responsibility. As the new year began, Catherine started receiving requests from documentary filmmakers and authors who wanted to tell the story of their family's Christmas transformation. While she was selective about which opportunities to accept, she recognized that sharing their experience could inspire other families to create their own meaningful traditions. The Wales family's Christmas innovation had become more than just a successful family project, it had evolved into a new model for how modern royal families could honor their heritage while meeting contemporary needs for authentic connection and meaningful engagement. Looking ahead, Catherine could envision a future where her children would carry forward the lessons they had learned about tradition, innovation, and authentic engagement. They would understand that their royal roles were not about maintaining static traditions, but about finding ways to honor the past while creating meaningful connections with the people they would serve. The Christmas tree that had started it all continued to stand in their private sitting room through January, its mix of professional and handmade decorations serving as a daily reminder of what they had accomplished. Each time Catherine passed it, she remembered the journey that had brought them to this point and felt grateful for the courage to pursue her vision of what their family's traditions could become. By the time the decorations were finally taken down and carefully stored for the following year, Catherine knew that they had created something lasting and significant. The handmade ornaments would be treasured family heirlooms, but, more importantly, they had established a new approach to royal family life that would influence how her children understood their roles for the rest of their lives. The quiet revolution that had begun with a princess's desire to create better Christmas memories for her children had transformed not only their family's traditions but had also provided a new model for authentic royal engagement that would influence the monarchy for generations to come. Catherine's Christmas legacy was not just about decorations or activities, it was about proving that even the most established traditions could evolve while maintaining their essential meaning, and that authentic family experiences could coexist beautifully with royal responsibility and public service.